Hi everyone, welcome back to Blasters and Boomsticks, and today we're going to be reviewing the 2021 horror film as well, Jakob's Wife. Dan, how are you? You joining me as usual? How's things?
All right, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, very good, very good. So this film, quite a little, probably gone under the radar quite a little bit, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for you guys out there who've not heard of Jakob's Wife, it's about Anne. She's married to a small town minister and she feels kind of like the dutiful wife. Over the past 30 years, she feels diminishing and everything about her marriage is loveless until she has an encounter with a supernatural being called the Master. Yeah, every synopsis for this film that I've seen or read before I see the film doesn't really. It's kind of half-assed. It doesn't really let you know what's going to happen, or it doesn't do it justice. So hopefully, you guys listening to our review for the next 10 minutes or so will actually, figure out whether it's a film you guys actually think you invest some time into. So, Dan, first thoughts.
I enjoyed it. I did. I think it's definitely got its faults. I don't think there's many, not many that really stick in my craw, but it was definitely there's certain parts of the execution I think could have done with it could have been executed better. I think absolutely brilliant vocal performance from Barbara Crampton. Yeah. I think she's absolutely phenomenal in it. Both her and Larry Fessenden plays her husband Jakob. I think they're so good together, and they play off so well against each other as well when they have the sort of conflicting scenes. I think
they've got great chemistry, haven't they?
They really have, yeah. I think for a small budget film as well, it works. It doesn't overstay its welcome either. Nicely paced. My main issue comes down to the Master. I think we'll get into that a little bit later. But yourself?
Yeah, I really like the film actually. I think it does kind of miss what it's in some ways, because I don't know whether it like in some ways there's bits, and I think like the design, because if you guys didn't know now, spoilers, like the Master is a vampire. And I think like one of the first victims that you see, her eyes are red, bright blood red, and some of the like gore effects that are in the film. You think, is this quite a vampire movie? It's like it at times it goes, yeah, we are a vampire movie, and then it feels like it's trying to like not get buried too far down that road, if you know what I mean. So that it comes back and it's like, is this just like a family drama piece that's just had this terrible like events happen? So I think it could have done with a bit more polish. Because the one thing that stuck out for me is I didn't actually feel much sympathy for some of the characters, especially Anne. Like I thought Barbara Crampton is brilliant. I think she's amazing, and she's so good in the film, and she makes you laugh, and she's great. But it's like we just kind of don't see much of her like misery kind of thing or stuff. So I feel more sorry for Larry in it, because you only see her actions against him.
I suppose you're right. I think you got from you're supposed to sympathise with her and see that she's downtrodden. You're right. We don't see probably as much to get. We see essentially a dinner scene where she's Jakob, her husband, he talks over her and doesn't and the same with the church, and she doesn't really get to say she's downtrodden. She's held back, but not to the extent where, I'm not saying, I'm not justifying it, but not to the extent where you think, he deserves a bullet or whereas he's just a product of his time, and he's a minister. He's a man of self-importance, a man who's important to the community, and obviously more his role as a minister is more important. His role as husband. And it comes from arrogance all his faults. So yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that we could have done with a little bit more build up.
Yeah,
Because so jump into story detail. The genesis of events are that an old boyfriend comes back into town, who wants to do some building work. They want to reinvigorate a factory, bring
yeah,
some more jobs, and she goes to meet him in the hopes that something will happen.
yeah,
Add a little bit of excitement in life, but like you said, I don't think it's quite warranted that she goes from being kind of downtrodden
yeah.
to wanting to throw a marriage away.
Yes,
Yeah, it could have, like I said, could have done with a couple more scenes.
because we don't see him really, like you said. It's like a product of, it's like, these big, like you see it like in some of these like sports films and parodies and stuff, where you see these like NBA stars or things like, even like something silly like basketball, where the first thing people do is when they become grandeur or self-importance, it's everybody else's like opinion is thrown out the window. It's water off a duck's back.
Yeah,
This guy's not that. He's far from it. It's just this small town where his work, they're interested in his voice and not hers.
yeah,
And his so like you said, it just doesn't, even thinking at it, that might be for some people listening, that might be a bit like, well, basketball or something, but that's the first sports film that comes into my head. And what we see is we see movie stars, sports stars, pop stars, all these kind of like celebrities that we talk about self-importance. And for me, people like that are the reality stars, something where it takes not much talent. Now, as much as I can't stand those, you would say to somebody, why don't you sit down with him? Why don't you properly sit down with her or him and talk about it? Not like, I don't know, just go fuck your marriage up.
yeah.
So, do you know what I mean? So, and it's not even on the scale, is it, of something? But, I think that there's so many good things about it, but I think because it's not got a strong foundation to work off, you kind of watch it and there's bits where you're like, that's brilliant, or the performances, and when Jacob starts to get some proper gumption behind him
Yeah.
after she's leading the way, you're like, you can't help but like, it's a bit of a, not the jump out of your seat, but you kind of like, you're egging them on. You're like, yes, come on,
Yeah,
you're cheering them both on. And I just think how much more emotion the film could have given you, how much more of a great ride you could have been taken on if you'd have like thought, you absolute wanker, Jacob. And then at the end you're like, yes, it's that journey, isn't it?
yeah,
And
yeah. Because
just,
yeah. Sorry, to say his journey is just as important, because he goes from being a bit of an arse,
yeah,
to fully supporting her transformation.
yeah,
Even though he's wary of her, he's completely
yeah,
wary of her and everything that's going on. But once he discovers what's happening to her, and this is the brilliance of it in his performance, is that he's scared for a little bit, but he takes it in his stride, because he looks at, there has to be a solution
yeah,
to it, and he has to, if it's God's will, then there'll be a reasoning for it all.
yeah,
It just happens that she becomes increasingly more violent, and
yeah,
I mean, some of the scenes are absolutely, you're right what you said about the gore. It's executed absolutely fucking brilliantly. Some of it is so over the top and reminding me of stuff that I love, like Evil Dead 2.
yeah,
I was so happy to see some of that side of things, that side of film that
yeah.
isn't too bothered about holding back.
Yeah, and I think that's why I could have done with more of that drama at the beginning, or darkness, because I think dark and horror and misery accompany comedy so well. I
Yeah,
think I'd have been in for that, but I know I've banged on, I've banged on about it now for quite a bit. But it's not like it's terrible. It's just, I think,
yeah,
again, it's just a little bit of a missed opportunity, especially when it is Jacob's wife. But yeah, to me, I feel a bit more. I do feel sympathy for her, and I'm sympathetic to her. But I think that's the problem. You're sympathetic towards what she's becoming and what's happened,
yeah,
not really for what she was living. And I think it's a problem when Jakobs like the guy, or you're like, oh, he's a bit of a knob, but he's our knob. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. And that's it. There was not one person that she ends up killing that you sort of worried about identifying with her. I think that's the other thing, was that you didn't, other than like she had a couple of people who we see at the start who come from regular, they come for dinner regular,
Yes.
who sort of end up sort of going the way of everyone else. I mean, one of my biggest delights were the police officers. And the whole sort of thing when everything's kicking off at the end, and they sort of realise this body's under the garden and all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
And they just look at what's going on, and they just turn to Prue when they realise it's vampires are here, and they just turn to Jacob and go, "This is your department," and they fuck off.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
It is.
It's just a nice reaction. Yeah. I say my issue that I had, what I was talking about earlier, is that it's when it came down to the execution of the master. Now, for a while, all we see is, like I said, red eyes or rats. We do a big or shadow. But it's the master's played by Bonnie Aarons, who plays Valak.
Yeah.
In the Conjuring series. And I don't know whether they've just gone for that because she's starting to play, sort of creatures with a little bit more flair to them or whatever. But they go like a Kurt Barlow, from
Salem Slot.
Thank you. Yeah, sort of a Nosferatu sort of look, and it just doesn't. I know she has to articulate, and there has to be some kind of charismatic presence to the master. But I just feel like, I think when she starts talking about, I've waited for you, I've turned you because I was a downtrodden female and kept back, and look at me, I'm empowered now.
Yeah.
That's what I want for you. I want you to go and live your best life, YOLO sort of thing. But I kind of feel like it didn't need to be Bonnie Aarons. I feel like the makeup was a bit off for me.
It's really odd as well, because there's times even within the same scene that I look at it and I can go, I know exactly what they're going for, and in a certain way it works. And then there's times when it'll cut back and I think, oh my god, in the wrong light it looks horrendous. And I have those. It can literally be me going, like, it'll be like this. It'll be like, yeah, okay, that's passable. To literally like a shot back, and I'm like, what the fuck were they thinking? To, yeah, okay, I can get what they're thinking.
To me, it's like this. It's like, look at it, watching it. You're right, because it's like one scene. It's like going, all right, so going for Nosferatu, and then it flips back to her, and you go, all right, I'm watching Coneheads.
Yeah. Come back. Is that Peter Boyle? Next scene. Yeah, it's a shame, because I think there's I still get what they were going for, and part of me does enjoy that. And again, the callback, like you said, so right, Salem's Lot, and Nosferatu, and that imagery and stuff. But also, it just, I think, unless you play again, because the vampire theme is waved, it is like the cherry on top of the cake. So really, did it need to have the classic nod to everybody? Couldn't it have been its own thing?
Yeah.
Especially as a female empowerment movie. Again, does that really come through in the theme? I'm not sure. So maybe the theme of the stuff as well is kind of summed up in the creature design. It's kind of everywhere. Yeah,
and I think when we came from only a couple of weeks back watching your review of Blood Vessel, that went for a fairly unique vampire design.
And it didn't, and the problem with that to me is, again, I really like that, but it was one of those, because it was so so in your face and well done. Once I saw it, it didn't scare me, I wasn't fearful of it. I was just like, that looks cool, kind of like a xenomorph kind of thing. Once it's out there, it's out there and stuff.
Yeah.
But you have to give them props, because that's when they changed the movie to, unless it was like a conscious decision to go, we can't keep this thing in the shadows looking like that without it being strange. So from this point of the film, it's going to get into the part where we're ramping it up and the climax is coming soon, where, again, I'd rather have that than a film that tries to do a bit of everything. You end up with a patchwork like Peter Boyle kind of,
Yeah.
like with red contacts in. And yeah, I think she's totally been. The non train, isn't it? It's on the
Yeah.
non train to get her. She's absolutely great as the non, and I'm not saying she's terrible here, but it does feel a bit stonk casting, if I'm
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, we've feels a little bit like myself. I've been negative more than I've been positive, but actually, I really enjoyed the film. I
Yeah.
think it's because there's a few things that probably tie it down from. I don't want to say this loudly, but I think it had potential to be a nice, great like horror movie, like
Yeah.
a nice, great kind of like cautionary tale.
Mm.
But again, those things probably did hold it down a little bit. But I'd have to say that I did enjoy it. I felt like it was worth my time. There's some brilliant performances in it, great chemistry with the cast.
Yeah.
And it's something that if I'm not saying I rush out to watch it again, but it's something I could see myself if it's on TV, if I just pass into it, or if I don't know, like I think like an Halloween movie, like a bit of a
Yeah.
laugh with your friends around or something like that. Inoffensive, I think it's great, but it just could have been something more.
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree. I enjoyed it, and that's I'd probably come across a little bit too negative to this, but I don't want people to say it that way because it's a very enjoyable film. The performances are great. The if you like gore, you're in for a treat because it's so in your face. It's funny when it needs to be funny. It tries to be scary when it needs to be scary, and it's a great film. Like I said, just could have been a little bit better, but I think horror fans will love it. I really do think they will, and I would
Yeah,
highly recommend it.
yeah, no, absolutely. Go and watch it, guys. Yeah, I don't think you'll be disappointed. You might want more, but I don't think you'll be disappointed. You won't have wasted your time. Yeah, Dan, thanks for that, mate. Thanks for joining us as usual. So I'm going to go and put garlic up at the windows and crosses at the doors. And while I'm doing that, I'd like to thank you all for watching. And if you could like, share, and subscribe, we'd be eternally grateful. So until next time, we've been Dan and Grant together and as individuals, and we'll see you next time.